Good news is your dates are here.
What's the bad news?
They're dead.
Oh, you're so cool, Brewster! Everybody's a suspect! Hey, Ted, where the hell's Corkscrew? Don't fuck with the Chuck!
Guys, we passed 400 subscribers. Today we're going to be talking about Deathgasm, which came out in 2015 and was directed by Jason Lee Howden. The cast is Milo Cawthorn as Brody, James Blake as Zach, Kimberly Crossman as Medina, Daniel Cresswell as Giles, and Sam Berkeley as Dion. This is the directorial debut for Jason Lee Howden. What a way to start off. Fucking swinging. This movie does not let go from start to finish. It's super bloody, super just vulgar, and super just violent. Every second of it. It was nominated for a Fangoria Chainsaw Award for Best Makeup. I do love the makeup. I've definitely seen better, so... Deathgasm 2, Goremageddon, was originally announced back in 2016, I believe. In 2023, a couple months ago, there was a Kickstarter for it, which I hope to God we get a sequel because this movie is perfect. And if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. All I gotta say to that is it's metal as fuck. So Brody, the main character, explains why he has to move to Gray Point with his aunt and uncle. His mom was like a meth head. She tried sucking Santa Claus off at a local mall. He stands up to his cousin, who we find out is just a real piece of shit. His name's David. He's just picking on everyone. He's always messing with Brody because he's different. He's a metalhead, and his family is nothing but like church people. So you can see where the conflict's gonna happen. But he stands up to his cousin David for picking on Dion. Dion and him kind of become friends. We get to see Medina.
Number one cause of awkward boners in Grey Point.
Which is so true, because she's very pretty. He introduces him to Giles by playing Dungeons & Dragons or Magic the Gathering. Some fantasy game. Brody is envisioning, he's like a guitar god and like a metal god, and he's like shooting lasers out of his eyes at girls' shirts and their tits are flopping out. It's pretty wild. Medina is dating his cousin David. She's not really into him, like she just wants out of it. She even tells him bullying and picking on people is not really a turn on. He's trying to like have sex with her in the middle of everything. The dude's just a turd. Brody ends up going to Alien Records. It's kind of like the only place where he can kind of fit in for a bit, but he ends up meeting Zach. I love this part because they're in the metal section together and they're like flipping through records and everything, and one will pull one out and the other one will like eyeball it and like, all right, he'll pull this one out and then like, all right, that's fucking sweet. And it's just like a good moment of going back and forth. Brody ends up pulling out a Poison record and Zach just, ugh. They end up becoming friends. Brody kind of realizes that this dude's just chaotic. He's just crazy. He loves just doing all this crazy antics. He like lights Hail Satan in like a field. Metal. We find out that Zach got expelled from school for stabbing some kid who disrespected King Diamond. He like stepped on his cassette tape, and that's one thing you don't do. Don't disrespect King Diamond. You'll get stabbed. Brody ends up introducing Zach to the gang. They form a band, and I love this scene because they're trying to come up with band names. It's like a running joke within the metal scene. Their band names are always like Chicken Scratch, and it's a nightmare to try to read. They start coming up with all these names like Maggot Sperm, but they end up settling on Deathgasm. You have rock, then you have metal, and then you have Deathgasm! Zach ends up taking Brody to Ricky Dagger's house. They end up trying to steal the Hacks and Sword album. Inside the album contains, it's called the Black Hymn, but it's a sheet music. You play it and it possesses everyone, and that's kind of where the movie's going right now. As they try to steal it from him, he wakes up and freaks out on him. He hears someone else coming. He realizes that it's the hitman. He gives the record to Zach and Brody. They end up taking off. Ricky Daggers ends up dying, but the practical effects right there of that throat slit, fucking top notch. The way the blood spews out, everything, the tissue that you see and everything, it's so good. Zach and Brody get the bright idea to make the Black Hymn into a Deathgasm song. That's the path we're going down right now. But in a good comedic moment, that hitman reports to, his name is Aeon. He learns that the pages were stolen. There's a break-in, he says. Aeon orders the hitman to be killed, but two cloaked assassins, I don't know, it's like a weird cult. but they come out with this giant-ass sword, cut his head off, and it pisses Aeon off because they didn't put a tarp down. So he has them, like, redo it, and they, like, hold his head up and kind of, like, gently saw it, and it falls off. Brody bumps into Medina, and they go and kind of get ice cream, kind of like talk. She's got a little crush on him, and he doesn't know how to really handle it because he's socially awkward. She keeps telling him she wants to get a tattoo. She wants to put it here and then like on her upper thigh and everything. And you can just tell like how uncomfortable he is in the face. She's kind of like feeding off it. You know, you see her smiling a little bit. It's really good to see that she, who's not any way, shape, or form okay with like the whole metal scene, she finds interest in him. And I like that. Brody ends up explaining metal music to a T.
It's like when life sucks and you feel alone and empty. Stick on some metal and life is better because somebody else knows the pain and the rage that you're going through.
David sees them at the park bench having ice cream together, and he's like plotting something. And this guy has a short temper. We see it beginning of the movie. The boys end up playing the Black Hymn, and it kind of puts him in like this weird trance state. We get to see his uncle be possessed for a split second. He's got blood shooting out of his eyes and everything. Medina starts listening to the metal CD that Brody gave her. We see how it like truly makes her feel like she's on top of the world. She's on this mountaintop just fucking with these two chicks. It's cool, dude. Brody ends up translating what the Black Hymn means, and we see it on the pages. It's Latin, and one thing you do in a horror movie, never translate or speak the Latin.
Do not read the Latin.
It's not hard. It ends up meaning summoning the king of demons, a black hymn for gaining power and fortune. They kind of touch on that later on in the movie. I don't know, they could have went about it a different way. That's probably one of the only real negatives I can say about the movie. We get to see David and his little bitch boy beating up Brody for hanging out with Medina. And that proves my point. This dude's just a fucking turd, man. But we see Zach stealing diesel out of an ambulance while smoking a cigarette. He's like sucking on the hose and smoking a cigarette. Bad combination, but it's funny. And Medina bumps into him and she's like, "Can you give this note to Brody?" Zach kind of pulls a dick move right here. He takes the note. It says, "Meet me at the park bench where we had ice cream and shit, 9 o'clock tonight." He doesn't even give the note to Brody. He keeps it and then he shows up. So he snags the girl for himself. You just don't do that. That's your boy. Don't be that guy.
You're not that guy.
But they end up playing the Black Hymn again. Not only do they go in that trance state again, but somehow their garage door opens and everyone in their little neighborhood can hear it and they all get possessed. They're all violently throwing up blood, shitting out blood. It's coming out of every fucking orifice you can think of. So the next day at school, Brody's in his math class again and his teacher starts kind of like twitching a little bit and he ends up farting out blood, shitting out blood. And then he goes up to a girl and violently throws up on her. All blood, by the way. Oh, and guess what? He throws up on her a second time. Not once, close to 3, but 2. Threw up on her twice. So Zach and Brody, they're hanging out in their car at his dad's shop. He hears like this banging going on. So him and Brody end up going out, trying to see what it is. It's Zach's dad banging his head against the wall. He's blindfolded for some fucking reason. He ends up attacking Zach and Brody. They're going at it. They end up killing his dad by dropping a car engine on his head. No pun intended, but that's metal as fuck. So Brody and Zach decide to go see Abigail, who's like this psychic that was at the record store. Giles and Dion are being attacked. Medina shows up looking sexy as hell with this axe, slaying people left and right. She shows up like a boss-ass bitch. But Abigail pretty much tells them that they fucked up by playing the Black Hymn. Medina, Giles, and Dion, they all end up going to the school for safety. Zach and Brody end up going to Brody's house to get the music and their instruments because their idea is to play it backwards and to reverse all this shit. Little do they know that a higher being is going to be involved. But they end up going to his aunt and uncle's house and they're getting attacked by the aunt and uncle. They get barricaded in the bedroom. They pull out a box of Christian stuff that says on the box. It's a big double-ended dilly. It's got some anal beads, all this crazy stuff. They start attacking the aunt and uncle, and this whole sequence is funny as hell. But they end up killing their aunt and uncle. He ends up going to get the music. We see it fly out the window. Convenient. Their idea is to go through the town and kind of recover the pages one by one. And they have till 3 in the morning because that's when the blood moon's supposed to bring this higher being in. And so you know exactly where it's going from there. Zach and Brody end up going back to the school to meet up with Giles, Dion, and Medina. We see Medina's kind of standoffish to Brody. They start talking again, and she's fixing his hand. She sees Zach's jacket in her bag. She tells him, like, he told me that you weren't interested, and he just started connecting the dots. He confronts Zach. They get in a little scruffle, and Zach pretty much ends up whooping his ass. At least he stood up for himself. Zach ends up disbanding from everyone, says,
This the folks middle.
Zach's fucking awesome in this movie. He's funny as shit. They end up going to Ricky Dagger's place. That's the only spot that they know where they have strong enough amps where they can play the music and spread it through the town and kind of reverse everything. They're confronted by the cult of Aloth, who's the higher being. Demon Ricky Dagger shows up. He's getting ready to kill Dion. Zach ends up coming back. He's in full-on murder mode, and it's awesome. He literally shoves a chainsaw up one of the cult members' ass when it's going. And then he ends up pulling like a John Wick move and just murking like 10 people. All these double chainsaws, just fucking mowing them all down. But unfortunately, we get to see Dion get his head/spine ripped out, just one quick motion. And it sucks because I like Dion. He's definitely an odd character, but I like him. And then we see Giles get dismembered, so sadly he's gone too. Aloth the Blind shows up, who's the higher being. He uses Zach's body as a vessel, so now Zach is attacking Brody and Medina. Brody picks up the guitar and pulls a Van Halen, just starts finger tapping and shredding all this crazy shit. It reverts him back to Zach for a temporary moment. Zach pretty much begs Brody to kill him because he doesn't want to be used as the vessel. He doesn't want to do harm. He doesn't want to do any of that stuff. So Brody cuts his throat with his little razor blade necklace. That kind of reverses everything. Since they couldn't play the music backwards by killing the vessel, that also stopped him. Some time goes by and Brody and Medina are finally a couple. And I liked her as her like bubblegum poppy look. She's still hot as hell as a metalhead, but I just like that more cleaner look for her. It doesn't really seem like it fits her. Brody ends up hearing like the crazy noises and everything going. It's just Zach fucking with him the whole time. Zach's like in the record. I love that ending. It's such a twist that you don't see it coming, and it's funny as hell. There's a post-credit scene, which I've seen this movie 1,000 times. I never thought for a second there would be a post-credit scene, but watching it for the review, there is a post-credit scene. He's talking into the record about starting up another band and keeping Deathgasm going, but he doesn't want to call it Deathgasm because everyone died. He says it doesn't seem right. Their whole conversation is just naming off more metal band names, and metal band names, they're always funny. Like you have Infant Annihilator, which is horrible sounding, but it's funny. You have Cattle Decapitation. All these crazy fucked up shit, and like what they're talking about in the post-credit scene is
Source circumcision.
Intesticide?
Bestiality bliss.
Birth canal boat riders.
just shit like that. The pros, it's definitely a great script. It's funny as hell. Got great effects. The pacing's fantastic. You got likable characters, good arcs in between them. The cons, there really isn't any. If I was to pick one, it would probably be the fact we never got a sequel, sadly. Like, this movie's fucking fantastic. Just make sure you guys got the bell notification turned on. You'll like and share the video. Comment down below, everything. I love talking to you guys. It's awesome. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Until then, see you later.